So the confab at the White House with House and Senate leadership on border, and of course, because Democrats were there, funding for Ukraine, the global package that Schumer and House Democrats want, funding for Ukraine, perhaps some funding for Israel, perhaps some funding from Taiwan. We'll throw some money at the border, and we'll call it a day. Well, concurrent to this, of course, legislation that is being bandied about, being drafted in the Senate with Schumer and Langford from Oklahoma, and being bandied about in the House, similar legislation with Maria Gonzalez and a Democrat rep from Michigan. Senator J.D. Vance from Ohio was on Laura Ingram's show the other evening, and he had this to say about cash for the border in exchange for cash for Ukraine and other issues.
We know what's going to be in this thing, and we know that it will lack two critical provisions. First of all, does nothing on parole, Laura. Barack Obama paroled 5,000 illegal aliens a year. Joe Biden is paroling close to 1 million per year. The proposal does nothing on parole. Second, it really does nothing on fixing the asylum process in our country. So you combine these two things, you're not actually addressing the border crisis. And importantly, and you saw Speaker Johnson address this, and I appreciate him for doing so, this is fundamentally about getting money for Ukraine. This is a border fig leaf so that we can send another $61 billion for Ukraine. And I just think it's such a catastrophic abdication of leadership for Republicans at the height of a significant border crisis, when the American people are with us on the need to secure the border, to pretend that we're securing the border with the one hand so we can give $61 billion to Zelensky with the other. It's atrocious.
For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Bret Baier, host of Fox News Special Report, weekdays 5 p.m., best-selling author of To Rescue the Constitution, George Washington and the Fragile American Experiment, as well as a graphic novel entitled The History Club, Duel Across Time. Bret, thanks for joining us, as always.
Good morning.
So the J.D. Vance position, is that the dominant position in the House? In the Senate, or are there a lot of senators that want to sign up with Langford to cut the deal that he was describing with Schumer?
I think there's more Langford types. There are a few J.D. Vance types, but there is a significant part of the Republican Party who thinks that the Ukraine effort is a good one. And I know that it's not the vocal voice on the right, but it is a voice, and that is not sending U.S. troops. Yes, there's a lot of treasure that's going over there. There's got to be more accountability and transparency, but their argument is that it is thwarting Russia, it is weakening Putin, it is helping Ukraine push back, and it's tougher to make that argument as you see what's happening on the ground. So I would say J.D. Vance, there are some folks that stand by him and what he just said, but there's still a pretty good chunk of Republicans that think the whole thing is important and they want to get as much as they can with the border to get it all done.
Well, the problem I think some have who are open-minded on Ukraine is that, we can talk about that separately, but our first order priority is this, and I just want to focus on this border situation, and it's not about money, it's about policy changes, thus the House Republicans' passage of H.R. 2. And so unless we get policy changes like Remain in Mexico, which Speaker Johnson said could, and Tom Homan has sort of echoed the notion, could stop 70% of the flow. Unless we get that, then we have nothing else to talk about on anything. So I think it's just a sequencing for some Republicans, too. It's not necessarily foreclosing the idea of providing additional support for Ukraine. But when you force the combination of the two and you essentially make them equally indispensable, it does lead one to be skeptical and sort of think along the lines of J.D. Vance that you're giving me this fig leaf in turn to get what you really want.
Yeah, and I understand that argument, and it's very prevalent about the sequencing, and there is a real concern about the border first and foremost, and which is why there's a lot of pressure on Speaker Johnson. In fact, the former president essentially saying he shouldn't take the deal. I think he's in a weak position. He doesn't have the votes. He just passed the CR with one extra Republican vote. It was 107-106. He lost 20 votes from the last continuing resolution vote. He's in a very, very weak position. So, he could get rolled at any time. And it's going to take a lot of negotiation to get something through at this point.
We mentioned we talked about your interview with Maria Gonzalez and Hillary Schulten on the House side, this bipartisan dignity act that they're touting, and which is, I think, similar to what Lankford and Schumer, or at least what's been reported, Lankford and Schumer are considering. Does that have any traction? The Gonzalez-Schulten bipartisan effort in the House, does that have any real traction with House Republicans?
I mean, right now there are more House Republicans who think that that's another form of amnesty. They have to explain it better if it's not. I mean, essentially what it is it's not giving citizenship. It is giving work visas and ability to work and basically a process. But I'm not sure that there are House Republicans that have signed on. There are 30 co-sponsors, so that means, 15 each? And you've got a long way to go there in the House to make that happen. But the Senate side, I think they're going to come forward with something, and they're going to have to negotiate. It's going to have to go to conference. This could take a while, and they don't have a while. They just don't. And so I don't think it's going to be this backroom deal that gets signed, in the dark of night. I think that they're going to have to knock it out, and it's tough to see that the votes are there.
All right, Bret Baier, we have 4 days until the New Hampshire primaries, and registered Democrats and independents can vote and participate. So what does that mean for President Trump? Is that going to hurt him or help him?
That'll hurt him. That will help Nikki Haley. It will not affect Governor DeSantis, who in all the polls lately is down in single digits. So basically you have, the former president getting close to 50. Right now, the average is, roughly 48, 50 to 35, 36. Could she close the gap in that time? It's possible. It is possible. But the going bet is that the former president wins New Hampshire, wins South Carolina, and this thing's closed out before Super Tuesday.
What do you make of the reporting that Trump's shortlist is J.D. Vance, Elise Stefanik, and Nikki Haley for VP?
I don't think it's J.D. Vance. I do think that Nikki Haley is sort of going down the totem pole as far as Trump world acceptance. I think Elise Stefanik is a name that I've heard. I've heard Tim Scott. Mm-hmm. I've heard Ben Carson. I've heard Joni Ernst from Iowa. I think there's a wish, a want to try to get someone that appeals to independents, moderates, that could affect his weakness. And you're going to see that weakness front and center in New Hampshire.
He is Bret Baier. Of course, he is the host of Special Report, 5 p.m. Chicago time, weekdays. He's the author of To Rescue the Constitution, George Washington and the Fragile American Experiment. That's a bestseller. Of course, Bret Baier wrote it. The History Club, as well as the History Club, Duel Across Time, which is a graphic novel. Bret, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Have you been struggling to find an easy, safe, and secure document scanning solution for Salesforce.com, Microsoft 365, SharePoint, or OnBase by Highland? Your struggle is now over, and it's time to get your documents and operations into the 21st century. With IoT Smart Connected Scanning, it's easy to turn physical paper into digital documents and have them directly uploaded to the cloud with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. And you don't need a degree in computing or IT to make it happen. Using QR code technology uniquely configured for your specific business, anyone can set the IoT Smart Connected Scanning device up in 5 minutes or less, saving your organization money and valuable time. Remote employees can even capture documents and send them safely and seamlessly. Organize documents efficiently and securely with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. To see a demo or to order now, go to ready4idt.com. That's ready4idt.com. Use promo code SMART and receive 10% off your order. IDT, putting paper in its place.
All right, 45 years ago, Roy Spencer founded Permaseal Basement Systems, working out of his apartment